This is the first of many video mails, or V-mails, that you'll be receiving. I suggest that they'll be much more meaningful to you if you've already seen at least 2 or 3 modules of the basic online Essentials of Real Love seminar that's included in your subscription, or if you've read the book, Real Love. I'm looking forward to the time we'll be spending together each weekday. As I've spoken with thousands of people all over the world, I've been consistently impressed with how frustrated people often are with many aspects of their lives. They have so many different problems with dating, marriage, parenting, other family problems, work, and so on. And it often seems so hopelessly complicated to them. In fact, that's a word I hear a lot, complicated. This relationship, this situation, this whatever is so complicated. Now, I'll never tell you that your problems are easy to solve, but they're rarely complicated when you understand and remember that what people want more than anything in the world is to feel unconditionally loved. When we remember that real love is the basic fuel that makes individual happiness and healthy relationships possible, it becomes obvious that when we're not happy and when we don't have happy relationships, we do not feel loved. We're simply missing that one essential ingredient. When we really get that, life isn't complicated anymore. It's always about real love. No kidding. Years ago, I noticed that one half of my basement was beginning to smell damp and musty. It even felt damp. Finally, one week when it rained for several days in a row, some wet spots developed in the carpet on one side. The wall got wet on that side too, along with the cupboards along that wall. I was not happy about that. First, I inspected the outside of the house. There were no obvious problems on the surface. There was no water running on the ground, for example, toward the house. The gutters were in good shape. So, with a wet wall and water leaking into the basement, I decided that there must be a leak somewhere in the waterproofing of the outside wall. I figured the only way I could find the leak was to expose the outside wall, so I began to dig by hand with a shovel. Because of the location of the wall and the landscaping there, I couldn't bring in heavy equipment. Shoveling Georgia clay is miserable. It's heavy, it sticks to your shovel, your boots, your clothes, and everything else. And when it gets wet, you can hardly even stand up in it. My children and I dug for weeks. We created a trench 40 feet long, 10 or 11 feet deep, and 5 feet wide. One at a time, we filled buckets with clay and mud. We hauled them 50 feet out to a path, loaded them into a cart, and then hauled them another 400 feet up a hill to a place where we could dump them. We tore all the tar paper off the wall and put new tar all over it. We created a new drainage system in the bottom of the trench so that any water there would drain off more quickly. With a huge drain pipe, we created a place for a commercial-grade pump to pull away any excess water that gravity drainage couldn't handle. And then we filled in the entire trench with gravel to allow water to drain even more easily. By the time we'd completed the project, we had moved almost 500,000 pounds of clay, mud, and gravel. But the leak was fixed. I repainted the cupboards that had been damaged by the water, cleaned the carpets, and put everything back to its original condition. Then, after about 6 months, it began to leak again. I almost cried. I did scream. After a day of complete depression, I began to dig again. I removed all the gravel and exposed the wall again. I did more work with the drainage ditch, put in a bigger sump pump, put more tar on the wall. And then one day, I was sitting on the edge of the trench taking a breather, and I leaned back and looked around the corner of the wall, and I couldn't believe what I saw. Here's how rainfall is handled from the roof. The water on the roof runs into the gutters and then into metal drain pipes that run down the side of the house like this and into black plastic drains like this that carry it out to a nearby creek. Between the metal drain from the gutter and the black plastic drain to the creek is a connector, little simple black piece of plastic. Whoever built the house installed a connector that had a big hole in the back side of it, right here. so that the water ran down the metal drain pipe, splashed out the hole, and straight onto the wall, where a lot of it made its way between the wall and the tar paper, eventually seeping through the brick and into the house. I went to Home Depot, purchased the replacement part for $1.50, and never had another leak. When it was all over, I had moved almost 1,000,000 pounds of material and moved at a considerable distance. It was a great deal of labor and inconvenience. I had replaced tar paper, slapped tar all over the place, dug drainage ditches, installed sump pumps and enormous drain pipes, cleaned carpets and replaced woodwork. And all that effort was absolutely worthless until I identified the real problem and replaced that $1.50 piece of plastic. The situation in our lives and in our relationships is not a great deal different. Desperately, we attempt to address what appear to be so many different problems in our lives, and we really pour our time and effort into them. But until we identify the central cause of all of them, our efforts can only be a tragic waste. It's always about real love, because that is what we need most for personal happiness and for healthy relationships. With real love, nothing else matters. Without it, nothing else is enough. As you watch these daily V-mails, as you listen to the weekly online radio talk show, as you read the Real Love book, and learn the principles of real love in other ways, you'll discover the real solution to all the frustration and confusion in your life. At work, in dating, in your marriage, with your children, and so on. Our lives are not complicated. We're just confused. Through the lens of real love, though, we can finally understand our problems and find meaningful solutions to them. Remember, it's always about real love.